Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today, we're tackling BMI, but with a twist. We're focusing specifically on women. And let me tell you, we've got some interesting sources here.
Oh, absolutely. It's a topic that's way more nuanced than people realize.
So before we jump in, for anyone who might not be totally up to speed, could you give us like a super quick explanation of what BMI is and why it matters, especially for us ladies?
Sure thing. So BMI, that stands for Body Mass Index. Basically, it's a calculation using your height and weight to kind of figure out if you're in a healthy weight range or not.
Okay, so it's not as straightforward as just stepping on the scale and going, okay, I'm good, or oh no, I need to hit the gym.
No, not quite that simple. Think of it as like a starting point, a conversation starter about your health.
Gotcha. I'm starting to see there's more to this than I initially thought. What are some of the biggest things people get wrong about BMI, especially when it comes to women?
Well, a big one is thinking your BMI directly equals your overall health. It doesn't factor in things like muscle mass, how dense your bones are, or where you carry your body fat, and all those things. They're super important, especially for women.
So like a woman who's really muscular, like a weightlifter, she could have a higher BMI, but be in amazing shape.
Exactly. And then you could have someone with a BMI that's considered normal, but they carry a lot of weight around their middle, which research shows can be riskier for some health problems.
Wow, so just focusing on the number itself can be totally misleading.
For sure. And another misconception, that your BMI should just stay the same throughout your life. But for women, come on, our bodies are always changing.
Totally. Hormones, metabolism, even losing muscle as we age. So how does age actually affect BMI?
Well, as we get older, it's pretty normal for BMI to go up a bit. It's not always a bad thing, but it does mean we need to be mindful, especially after 50 or 60. Building and keeping muscle mass through strength training becomes even more important.
So even if the number creeps up, it doesn't automatically mean we're less healthy.
Exactly. It's about understanding those changes and making choices that support our bodies at every age.
Makes sense. Now, besides age, we also found that your ethnicity and even where you live can play a role in how BMI are interpreted. What stuck out to you the most there?
The adjustments needed for different ethnicities, especially for women of Asian descent, they tend to have a higher percentage of body fat at the same BMI compared to other groups.
So two women with the same BMI but from different backgrounds could actually have different health risks.
Absolutely. It's not just genetics either. Where you live, cultural things like diet and how much people typically exercise, those all factor in too.
I'm realizing BMI is way more complex than I ever thought. It's not just plugging numbers into a formula.
Nope, it's like judging a book by its cover, you miss all the good stuff inside.
Okay, so we've talked about how BMI can be kind of misleading by itself. What are some other ways to get a clearer picture of our health besides just looking at BMI?
Well, one tool is something called a skin-fold body fat calculator. It's actually pretty cool.
Skin-fold body fat calculator. Okay, break that down for me. What is that?
Basically, they use a tool, it's like a little pincher thingy called a caliper, and they measure how thick your skin folds are at a few different places on your body.
Ah.
Yeah, and then you plug those measurements into a formula, and it gives you a pretty good estimate of your overall body fat percentage.
So it's like a more hands-on way to check body fat instead of relying on just height and weight?
Exactly. Because remember, BMI can't tell the difference between fat and muscle, so this way gives you a better idea of your actual body fat levels. And that's a way better indicator of health risks than BMI alone.
Wow, I'm learning so much today. I'm writing that one down. What other tools did our research turn up?
There's another one called a fat-free mass index calculator.
Fat-free mass. Okay, refresh my memory. What exactly is that?
Basically everything in your body that isn't T-fat. So your muscles, your bones, organs, all the water in your body. This calculator figures out how much of your total weight is made up of that fat-free mass.
Ah, so it's kind of the opposite of body fat percentage. Why is that number important?
Well, we were talking about how women naturally lose muscle as we age.
Right.
And that can mess with your metabolism and your health. So this calculator adds another piece to the puzzle when you're trying to figure out your fitness and nutrition goals.
All right, so we've got these calculators to give us more info on body composition, but it's a lot to consider. How do we make sense of all this without getting totally overwhelmed?
Yeah, it can definitely feel like a lot. The important thing to remember is none of these numbers tell the whole story on their own. It's all about context. Your BMI, body fat percentage, fat-free mass, those are just pieces of a bigger picture.
So it's not about freaking out over one number, but more about understanding how they all connect, right?
Yeah, you got it. And some of the other pieces we have to consider are your age, ethnicity, lifestyle. And of course, genetics can play a role too.
Oh, right. Can't forget about family history. Even if your BMI is considered healthy, if heart disease runs in your family, for example, you'd still want to be careful, right?
Right. It's about being proactive and taking steps to stay healthy for the long haul.
This is like a whole new way of looking at health, going way beyond what the scale says.
It is. It's about understanding your own personal health picture, then making choices that help you feel your best.
So where do we even start with all this? There's so much to think about.
Honestly, talking to your doctor is a great first step. They can help you understand all these measurements and what they mean for you. They can also give you personalized advice about diet, exercise, or any tests you might need.
This deep dive is really showing how important it is to move away from those one-size-fits-all health solutions, right?
Absolutely. It's all about working with your doctor to figure out what's best for you as an individual.
Now, before we move on, can you remind me about BMI percentiles? What are those and why do they matter?
Sure. BMI percentiles tell you where you rank, BMI-wise, compared to other women in your age group.
Okay.
So say you're in the 75th percentile. It means 75% of women your age have a similar or lower BMI than you.
So it gives you a sense of where you fall in the range of what's normal.
Yeah. But keep in mind, those percentiles come from data about whole populations. So you got to think about how healthy those populations are in general.
So if you're in a population where a lot of people are overweight, even if your percentile is in the middle, you might not actually be at a healthy weight.
Right. It goes back to that context thing. Percentiles are helpful, but you can't look at them alone.
Okay, starting to get the bigger picture now. Before we wrap up, I'm curious about something we found in our research, the differences in BMI percentiles between men and women. What was that all about?
One big thing is that women tend to have a wider range of BMI values than men do. So at the very high end of the BMI scale, and the very low end, you're going to find more women than men.
Huh. That actually is interesting. Why would that be?
Probably a few things going on. One thought is it's related to just the natural variety in women's bodies. Remember we talked about how women have a wider range of body shapes and compositions than men? Well, that can lead to a wider range of BMIs too.
So it's not that women are inherently less healthy, it's just that our bodies are more diverse.
Exactly. Another thing that probably plays a role is societal pressure. Women are constantly bombarded with these unrealistic beauty standards, which can lead to unhealthy behaviors, like crazy diets or even eating disorders.
It's true. We see those impossible standards everywhere. Magazines, social media, even just in everyday conversations.
And unfortunately, that pressure can push some women to try and be way too thin, which isn't healthy. Then others might rebel against all that and completely reject the idea of focusing on weight or health at all, which isn't good either.
It's so complicated. It makes you wonder if we need to be talking more openly and honestly about body image and health, moving away from those narrow and often harmful societal ideals.
I think so. We need a more inclusive view of health that celebrates diversity and focuses on how we feel, not just how we look.
Totally agree. Now, before we move on, gotta give a shout out to all the researchers and experts out there who've worked so hard to understand BMI. They've given us so much info to help us make good decisions about our health.
They have. And they've helped us move towards a more personalized approach to healthcare, getting away from those one-size-fits-all solutions. It's because of them that we can have these conversations and learn to advocate for ourselves.
Absolutely. So thank you to all those brilliant minds out there. And with that, let's move on to the final part of our deep dive.
All right, we're back. Ready to wrap up our deep dive into BMI for women.
I think we've covered a lot of ground.
We have. We started with, what BMI even is, and then went into all these interesting things like how age and ethnicity and even where you live can affect it.
Yeah, and all those other tools and measurements that can give us a more well-rounded view of our health, not just focusing on one number. Exactly. So as we bring this deep dive to a close, what are some of the biggest takeaways you hope our listeners are walking away with?
Well, the main one, I think, is to remember that BMI is a tool. It's not like a final judgment on your health. It can be helpful, but it's just one piece of the puzzle.
So more of a starting point than a finish line.
Exactly. It gives you some information, but you have to consider it alongside all the other factors that contribute to your well-being.
Which leads us to embracing a more holistic view of health, right?
Right. We've talked about how much your lifestyle matters, your genetics, the environment you live in, even those societal pressures we were discussing. It's about understanding how all those pieces fit together to create your unique health picture.
It's almost like we need to shift our focus from just weight to like overall well-being,
Yeah.
Thinking about all the things that make us feel healthy and happy and strong.
I love that. And a big part of that is being your own advocate when it comes to your health.
What do you mean by that?
Don't be afraid to ask your doctor questions. Do your research. Find healthcare providers who really listen to you and understand your individual needs. The more you know about your own body and how it works, the better decisions you can make.
It's about taking control of your own health journey.
Absolutely. And remember, health is a journey, not a destination. There are going to be ups and downs along the way, but it's about progress, not perfection. Celebrate your wins and learn from any setbacks, but always be kind to yourself throughout the process.
Love that. Self-compassion is so important. I have to say, this deep dive has given me a new way of looking at BMI, and I feel a lot more empowered to take charge of my own health.
That's wonderful to hear. And I'm curious, what about you listening in? What resonated with you today? What are some things you're going to do to explore your own personal health journey?
We'd love to hear your thoughts, share them with us on social media, or leave a comment on our website. We always appreciate hearing from you.
And until next time, keep exploring and keep learning. There's a whole world of fascinating information out there waiting to be discovered.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.